Welcome to the Craft Service Table, the podcast where we talk about films, television, art, and entertainment from the perspective of the people who made them. I'm your host, Howard, and joining me today is actor, stunt coordinator, intimacy coordinator, avid gamer. He has worked on over 96 verticals throughout his career, and he's also part of the team that holds the Guinness World Record of the largest Negroni ever made. It's Aaron Fetter. Welcome to the show.
Thank you for having me.
Of course, thank you for coming. I know you've been really busy. We've been trying to schedule this for the past, I would say, 2 months now.
Well, I mean, I don't really have anything else in my life except for work, but I definitely fill up my entire life with work.
No, I think that's good. I think that's a good problem to have, especially in 2025 in the film industry. Tell me about this largest Negroni project. I'm super interested about. It's one of my favorite facts about you.
So this would go back to a job I had before I returned to the film industry. I was outside the film industry for I think about 20 years. I worked in it as a kid for a long time. And I was the beverage director, I believe bars and beverage manager, beverage director. My title changed once or twice of the Kimpton Mala in Bangkok. And one of the programs that I was running, because we do lots of promotions and things like that, was for Negroni Week, which is like Campari's big push to sell lots of Campari during a specific week, which may or may not have anything to do with Negronis. I'm not sure. But bartenders, especially craft cocktail folks, we love Negronis. It's a great cocktail. And I had great resources in this hotel. So I developed a whole pitch to basically break the Guinness World Records on the largest Negroni, which I think was made in a barrel at that point of maybe like 250 liters, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
I had my own ice room. I had a room just for carving the 300-pound blocks of crystal clear ice that I made. I had a device called the Klein Bell, which any nerdy bartenders would know what that is. But I was the first one to bring one outside the US or the first one to bring one to Southeast Asia. And we were to use that to make a giant cocktail glass out of crystal clear ice and make the world's largest Negroni. Sadly, this took place after my departure, but it was my entire outline program, designed the whole thing. I have to give a lot of credit to the people who were there and the beverage manager who took over because they had to deal with Guinness, which apparently is a fucking pain in the ass. Because you have to use every little bit of the Negroni, which isn't hard, but they need to prove and calculate it all. And there's all kinds of hoops they had to jump through. So I'm glad I get to take the credit for the idea, developing the pitch, moving it forward. But I'm glad I wasn't there for the execution.
Well, it's magnificent. I saw some of the photos and some of the videos about it, and it's just like, wow, how is that even a thing? It seems like such a random record to hold, you
I'll
know?
tell you this, the head chef there, who was the ice carver, who I can't remember his name, but I guarantee he was cursing my fucking name the whole day because he has to wheel this thing out and figure out how to get it from the ice room to there through the doors in Thailand, which is pretty warm, letting you know. I don't remember what time of year, but me and him, we butted heads a few times. You know, he kept stealing my fucking coffee. Uh, but I guarantee you he was pushing that thing out and just cursing my fucking name.
Hmm. Well,
Like I
I
made
think it, I
four,
hope it
six
was,
months out of it.
I hope it was all worth it. I think it's quite an achievement.
It's totally, totally worth it. I know that my GM, who was a sweetheart, who you probably saw in the photos, he's the tall, blonde German dude,
Hmm.
who is the manager and one of my greatest people I've ever worked with. Really pushed that project through and holds that as like a nice little blue ribbon on the hotel.
Cool.
But yeah,
Have you,
that was a fun project.
but have you thought about your favorite craft service item before on set?
Depends on what kind of mood that I'm in. Am I in a health mood or do I not care? I mean, I'm in my mid 40s, so I go back and forth from like, oh, I just want hard-boiled eggs and, some mixed nuts and some healthy things. And then I go right back to I want gushers. Like I find you can define what kind of set you're on by what kind of gummies they choose. Welch's is very standard.
Hmm.
You're on every set. Welch's, Black Forest,
That's a little bit
that's
more bougie.
that's a little more bougie and it's
Yeah.
appreciated, but Gushers is a refined set. You're on like, a five-star production right there, AAA. Because there's always gummies and there's always going to be a range. And I remember I worked on one set. I won't name the actor, but he insisted that everything was a health nut level that was kind of fucking obnoxious, because
Mhm.
at that point it's not candy. It's just an amalgamation of candy that probably cost 15 times what a Haribo gummy bear would cost.
Mhm.
And everything was fucking horrible. And I remember the lunches too. Like they were so well packaged and the ingredients were well thought out, but it's just gross.
Um,
Mhm.
we worked together back in July of 2025, and right now is September of 2025, and it was quite an interesting project. We were shooting in three different aspect ratios at the same time. I don't know if you remember that because
I
it's a
do.
while ago. And you also said that you might have hit the vertical slap record on that one with 16 slaps and four attempted slaps. I'm not sure what that means.
Okay, so I remember this one now. This is the one where the two characters were told to slap each other 10 times back and forth, right?
No, I don't think it was that one.
Oh, okay. This is another one then. That I thought that was
Hmm.
more recent. Um,
But yeah, do tell. That sounds like an interesting story.
well, I guess this was only maybe a few months ago then, but I had in one scene and we counted something like 21 slaps
Oh
in
my
one scene. And one of the takes was literally the lead, the hero, saying to the villain who's now been disheveled and embarrassed in front of everyone, which happens somewhere in the third act, if you can call it a third act,
God.
um, to slap each other 10 times back and forth. And stunt-wise, I tell you, this was actually quite fun because I know how a lot of people might have shot that and it would have taken them fucking forever. And we made it pretty simple. It came out really good. I think we were already behind at least an hour and a half. It was a daylight scene that
Oh
they
God.
that they started doing at like 2 in the afternoon, and it's like a seven pager, in a place with giant bay windows that was facing sunset.
Oh.
So literally, like halfway through the scene, they're like, "Oh, we fucked up." I'm like, "Yeah, I told you that 4 hours ago."
But what a scene. I mean, all of these slaps and these verticals, they just, I mean, every time I'm still amazed that it happens on set and we get paid doing it.
Yeah, it's an interesting theme. Like one of the few ideas I've pitched a few times is that we make a vertical. Are you familiar with slap competitions?
Somewhat like they knock
You
each
see
other
it
out
on
or something.
TikTok and
Yeah.
things sometimes where it's
Hmm.
competitive slapping the two
Right.
guys or the two girls. We make a vertical, but it's just like every other vertical. She's the maid who's actually really the heiress, blah blah blah. But the whole time, secretly at nighttime, she's sneaking out to an underground slap competition and having so that way in the daytime when the mother character comes and gives her a slap, she just fucking eats it. Nothing to her. And in the third act, when she slaps the villain, she just destroys them, leaves a
Oh
giant mark
man.
on their face. And we cast in the underground fight club, slap arena, only just giant, burly, muscle-bound women
Oh,
to
that's
like
freaking
sit and oppose
hilarious.
her. And then every time she slaps them, she just fucking destroys them. It's just a slight, like one of the 300 pitches that I throw out there with n no intention of keeping it. I just hope somebody else makes it and then hire me to do the stunts.
You have a lot of
I really
ideas.
have no desire to write verticals, to be honest, because I know the business side of it too well.
Hmm.
And
Yeah,
if
it's
I'm gonna
it's
get
kind of a
fucked, I'm gonna get
mess.
fucked for more money.
Oh yeah, 100%. Yeah. So to go back a little bit, I do want to get to know you a little bit more. I do want to know how did you get into the arts in the first place? Like what is your superhero origin story?
Anakin Skywalker. Pretty much. I was already working a little bit as an actor and a child model, I guess, at the age of like 10, 11, 12. I had done a few things. And then the trailer for Episode 1 Star Wars came out. And I remember when that one was coming out. And I remember looking immediately and thinking about 2 and 3. And it was already kind of publicly known that it was going to be later in the story and that they were going to be casting someone pretty much exactly my age for Anakin Skywalker. And that's when I tried to push my career forward a little bit with a new manager, new agent, started going to like IMTA, and I was in the East Coast. But everything I was doing over that 2 to 3 year period was to position myself to audition for that role.
Mhm.
And that was pretty much my origin story, what allowed me to get further deeper into acting And when I did a movie called The Civil Action, and that's where I got like my SAG stuff,
Your Fenway Park vendor role?
my Fenway Park vendor role, and all the other little things I did around then that aren't really worth mentioning so much.
Did you always
Uh,
know that you wanted to be an actor as a kid?
Definitely. I mean, movies were, I always know that I wanted to be involved in the filmmaking process. Movies were everything to me since I was a little kid. They still are pretty much now. You know, I just find myself so locked in on like a generation of filmmaking in the 70s, 80s, and 90s, kind of when I grew up, and getting more and more disappointed with the state of the industry these days, not in the work side of it, just the shit that we fucking produce.
Hmm.
We spend the money on the worst stuff, and then we just have the ability to create so much white noise with the rest of it.
How
So
much do
it's
you think?
really, go
Go
ahead.
ahead. Oh, I was gonna ask, like, how much do you think like streaming and technology has shaped that kind of trend?
I don't think it's as much, it's streaming for sure a little bit, but also the technology of how easy it is to make a piece of shit film. And I like piece of shit films. I just can't discern between the good piece of shit films and the goddamn white noise ones.
Hmm.
And I used to basically curate films for a film festival. So I would sit there and watch all the student films come in and mark them as like red, green, or yellow. You know, like somebody else should watch this.
Hmm.
Somebody needs to watch this. Nobody ever fucking watched this kind of categories. Um, so yeah, I think the technology and making how easy it is to make something is good, but it's also kind of bad because there's so much of that super low budget stuff that it's hard to find the really good stuff
Yeah,
that I know
100%.
is in there, but it's just lost in grains of sand. And then the stuff that we're throwing so much money towards and investing everything in,
Yep.
there's no longer artists involved in it. You know,
Hmm.
this is an industry that started with criminals and miscreants and people who had no other option but were natural artists. And they came here and they started this industry. Now it's only bureaucrats and lawyers making decisions.
Hmm.
It's very rare that there's ever an artist at the table in a decision-making process.
Yeah.
Maybe they're put in a position to make a certain level of decisions and everything below, but they can't make decisions above this line.
Hmm.
Only bureaucrats and fucking lawyers can make decisions above that line.
I mean, speaking of bureaucrats, I feel like this is one of the things that you told me when we were on set that really stuck out to me. I was going to ask you a little later in the episode, but since this is brought up right now, you said that the camera department is the only department that is protected by bureaucracy.
Well, I think so, yeah. You can look at basically just by their vibe. Every other department at one point or another or constantly is stressed and broken and feeling the strain because you kind of have to. Camera department is almost always the cool kids on set. You know, they're kind of walking tall, they're in their lane, they know their lane, and nobody else knows their lane.
Hmm.
And it's the one part that is true artistry. And it will be the last to be attacked by bureaucracy because it'll be the last one that bureaucracy tries to understand. Everything else they can look at and be like, I understand how that works. Or at least on a surface level, I understand how that works. But they'll walk up to the DP and the DP will be explaining stuff and they don't understand a single fucking thing they're saying, but they'll sit there and nod. Be like,
Hmm.
oh yeah, 'cause they're the artist.
Is it because that they think if picture is everything, then I'm going to let the picture people do their thing?
Because even an untrained eye recognizes when something looks good. They can't tell you why. They
Hmm.
can sit there and have somebody else explain the lighting and the framing and like, no, no, we're tracking eye line. And they're like, I don't get it, but it looks
Hmm.
great.
Hmm.
Just as much as they can look at something and be like, I don't get it, but it looks off, which can be something as simple as like breaking the 180 line. Like, I don't understand why it looks off, but it hurts to look at.
Hmm.
And I think that the bureaucrats and the money people will be the last to understand that. Directing, they completely understand. They're like, I can put a rhesus monkey in a director position if he has a great first AD, a great DP, and
Hmm.
really good casting. What does a director even
Interesting.
really do? It's perspective.
Yeah.
I mean, a really good director is important when everything else is struggling. But if
Hmm.
you have amazing department heads and really good casting, doesn't matter.
That's very interesting that you put it that way, and that statement always stuck out to me. Going back, so you were acting as a child actor, and you were originally a model in East Coast, and you eventually moved to LA, and you left the industry when you were 17, and going to hospitality, and you became an international bartender in Taiwan and China and Bangkok. So what made that transition? Like, what led you up to that point?
I mean, nothing directly. I just kind of floated for a long time through life. 17, 18, I was washing dishes in a Creole Cajun restaurant. And I went from that restaurant to prep kitchen, which is making salad dressings and cakes and breaking down proteins in the morning to work in the line to that's when I actually got married around that time and money became an issue. So I became front of the house and I started bussing tables,
Hmm.
which quickly became waiting tables because I was too smart to bus tables for more than a month or two. And then waiting tables was like great money. And that was solid for a long time. And that's where I learned everything in the front of the house. Moved to San Francisco. This is where I worked. I don't know if I ever mentioned I work at LucasArts testing video games for one season.
No,
Uh,
that's interesting.
well, I was working for Amici's, which is a in restaurant out there that's on Lombard, and the LucasArts people came in,
Hmm.
and I saw their badges, their little, and I immediately like traded like three tables for that table with another server,
Hmm.
hooked the table up, and at the end of it, basically begged for a job and got in there for one turn testing video games, a game called The Force Unleashed that I
Wow.
tested for one season. And that was my one stint leaving that industry. Then I went right back to the restaurant industry because I needed money. You don't make a lot of money testing video games, but you do have a lot of fun. And yeah, from there was ended up back in the East Coast. Certain things happened. Me and my wife moved back because of her school. And at that point, I was waiting tables, but immediately moved into management because more money, more opportunity, and I had the ability to move up. I'm not somebody who trains really well in a classroom, but you
Hmm.
can put me in most job environments, and I'm going to shadow and learn everybody's position really quickly. And then from management, bartending, and years later, bartending in Boston, some New York kids, ABC kids from Taiwan, came in and wanted to bring like the New York cocktail scene to Taipei. And they loved me and they wanted me to go run it.
Hmm.
And I did because why the fuck not? You're offering me a bunch of money and to travel outside the US, which was a dream at that time, wasn't as common, I guess, as it is today. And that was several years. That bar won lots of awards, got on World's 50 Best, Asia's 50 Best, which led to
Wow.
offers in China. And I spent 6 years there, had two of my own bars that I owned at the time, maybe involved in at least a dozen other projects, some that are still thriving today. And then after that, after getting kicked out of China for a much more interesting and maybe different type podcast story, um, only a 5-year travel ban on China, which is now up. I could technically go back if I wanted to, but I'm not sure that they wouldn't throw a black bag over me as soon as I walk through fucking customs. I moved to Thailand and lived the entire pandemic there and had probably the softest pandemic of anybody you've ever met because I was contracted with a major five-star hotel that was supposed to open just before the pandemic hit. So, of course, we didn't open. It
Hmm.
got delayed, but I'm still under contract, so they have to keep paying me. And they let me move into the property, this five-star luxury property. It was me
Wow.
and the finance manager who negotiated this deal, where supposedly we were switching rooms every week and doing room checks, checking the outlets, checking all the little things, making sure that everything's installed properly. Really, I just stayed in that one suite for like 6, 8 months
Wow.
for free. It was like The Shining, but not scary.
But luxurious
It
somehow.
was a five-star luxury property,
Yeah.
and my job was pretty much just to keep my team all employed. So we were doing test kitchen stuff for cocktails and restaurants. We had 5 restaurants on the property. So every day I was just eating massive amounts of food and bringing whatever I wanted back up to my little apartment on the 40th floor. It was the softest pandemic of anybody you know,
Hmm. That's
except for
so
maybe a
interesting.
billionaire who escaped the country.
Wow. What a chapter in your life. And then you came to LA in 2022, right
I
after
guess
COVID.
2022, maybe 2021, I'm not sure. It was
Hmm.
it was COVID was still going on.
Hmm.
Because I was back working when we had COVID restrictions. Everybody was masked up, and I had like a year of taking COVID tests before every job.
Oh yeah, jabbing your nose every day.
And, yeah, and
Every day.
sometimes it was like they were trying to scratch your thoughts.
Right.
But I don't miss the money. So we were getting paid $100 per test
Ugh.
for a lot of those. So I did the math, and it was like 10 grand.
You came back to LA and to pursue your kind of film career after serving in Marvel production and how it reminded you how it feels to wrap a movie with your coworkers.
It
Um,
was the end of the day process. It
mhm.
was this Marvel production was in the hotel, and I became friends with a couple of them, cast and crew. And it was one specific day when they were all hanging out by the pool, and I hooked them up all the time because at that point I was a huge Marvel fan. I loved everything they were doing because this was pre-Endgame or right around Endgame, uh, so they could do no wrong. And I remember just hooking them up, bottles of champagne. And it was the vibe that you could tell that they had worked together throughout the day, or at least a few of them, had been working hard
Yeah.
and collaborating and making something. And it was that vibe that I'd forgotten, because I always said I would come back to the film industry, but my career was pretty generous and I was in no rush. But it was when I saw that it kind of triggered their memory of what it's like to collaborate with people and to complete something and to create something that can never be unmade, once you've completed it. Uh, and I turned down my next 2-year contract because I was a few months away from them renewing my contract, and they did offer to renew it. And I remember I turned it down, and it was very abrupt. People were surprised. And like 2 months later, I was in LA and I was working, and I was cranking out doing background mostly, just
Mhm.
trying to get like a little bit of a running start. And I worked background on pretty much every show that was shooting at that time.
Did the industry change at all since the last time you were here?
I mean, it's changed since I showed up here, but it's changed completely since I was a kid. But
Hmm.
also, that's me working as a kid versus working as an adult. These are completely different industries.
Hmm.
As a kid, everybody's nice to you.
Not so much when you're an adult.
Well, they don't have to be. Like, they're nice to you when they have to be. Um, but as a kid, yeah, it's a very different set mentality. But also, I think because now working verticals, there are kids on set, and I get to watch the dynamic between their parents and the set teacher is much different than when I was a kid. Because when I was a kid, the parents would be fucking gone for sure, off doing whatever, sometimes looking in on different productions. And set teachers really didn't do much either then. And people got away with definitely like pushing kid time and violating like the amount of hours we were allowed to work. And there was a lot of blind eyes turned to that, where not at all these days. These days, like I worked on Skeleton Crew, which was a kid production, and you could tell they were being very fastidious about it. And
Hmm.
every studio production that's had kids, they're not fucking around with that anymore.
Good. I mean, good for them. I think that's how it should be, really, because I think industry has changed a lot. Where right now it technically feels like it's better than ever when it comes to the environment.
I mean, we're always 2 steps forward, 1 step back. It's a pendulum. We improve some things and some things backslide, but that's the progress wheel, across all humanity. It's never like a straight little bit of progress. Things are better and things become more difficult in other ways. A lot of things are vastly better. And I'd say just right off the bat, the whole auditioning process. And I didn't have to deal with it as much as a kid because people would bring me places and people would go get things for me. But back in the day, you couldn't get your sides digitally. You had to like, as an actor for auditioning, you had to go someplace and pick up the sides and then
Hmm.
go someplace else to audition. So usually actors were coordinating with each other a lot of times, and they'd be like, "Oh, are you going to Studio City? Can you pick up sides for me for this? Oh, I'm going over here. You pick up sides for this." And that's kind of how everything in the industry worked. And now we're in the digital age. It's fucking insane.
So how did you get into the vertical world?
Uh, the strikes is, I guess, when
Hmm.
that started, which we all saw the strikes coming. I was working Winning Time, and Juliet is what it was called at the time, which was the Joker sequel. Like I could not get on a good movie. I was working on all these big projects that we were so excited about, and they all came out and they're just fucking trash. And we all saw the strikes coming because
Yeah.
no production was ramping up. And I took actually a small contract back in cocktails because I have a friend who has a consulting firm. And I took a contract where I was literally going around the US to the Waldorf Astoria properties and rewriting their menus. Pretty cushy gig, actually.
Hmm.
Like 4 or 5 weeks of luxury, just flying around, 5 star, go into their test kitchens, write a 20 cocktail menu, eat steak dinners all the night. On day three, I would train the cocktails to the team and then move on to the next city. And we were in New
Hmm.
York twice, DC. My buddy's company is Lauder Triskella Hospitality. It's Chris Lauder. You'd look him up. He's one of the more famous bartenders in the world. He's got a pretty huge TikTok following.
Hmm.
And a really, really good close friend of mine. And me and him basically went around doing these cocktail rewrites. I mean, I can always go back to that stuff at the drop of a hat. I could go back to Thailand right now and have the same job probably within 2 or 3 weeks.
Yeah.
It's not that difficult. Um, but I don't want to do it anymore. I don't want to make fucking drinks for people anymore.
Well, we're
And
making
also,
verticals. We're making entertainment now.
I like struggle. And that life became a complete lack of struggle. It became so easy. Because it was like being a celebrity chef to a certain degree.
Hmm.
In Bangkok or in Shanghai, I was a known personality. I could go around to bars and restaurants, and people knew me. People who I didn't know would say my name, and things were free. But for me, that stuff gets really soft and dull really quick.
Hmm.
And then restaurants don't taste good, and things that have no struggle really don't have a lot of value for me. I haven't been to a sit down restaurant now that isn't like that where you don't stand up and order at a counter in maybe 2 or 3 years.
Wow.
There's very little luxury in my life these days. And that way, when it comes to me, it's something I enjoy. When I can sit down and spend a few hours and just play video games, I enjoy it a lot more.
It sounds like you're a type of person that you don't want to be too comfortable.
Definitely not.
Right. And so, what do you think that you get out of being in the film industry with that?
You're not allowed to ever be comfortable in the film industry. You will deal with every discomfort the human body is capable of, except for hunger and thirst.
Hmm.
But every other physical discomfort that you can think of, you should think is inherent in the film industry. You're going to be cold. You're going to be hot. You're going to be tired. You're going to be every emotional thing on the spectrum from angry to annoyed. You're going to get injured
Yeah.
occasionally. It's within the realm of possibility to take an injury on set and be like, "Dear God, why?" It's because you work in the film industry. Things move fast, and most of my job is preventing injuries, but they
Right.
do happen. Thankfully, on my watch, never so much as like some minor lacerations, not needing stitches, and a couple of bruises that would heal in a day or two.
So let's talk about that. That's your job title is stunt coordinator and also intimacy coordinator. So please enlighten me and the listeners out there. Like, how would you describe what you do, and what is a stunt coordinator, and what is an intimacy coordinator?
They have some similarities and some differences, but the baseline is you're a department head who can say no to things that might prevent injury, either emotional or physical. And then beyond that, because that's really the foundation, you are a department head who can provide options on how to make these things sellable to the camera, and how to embellish upon emotion. So they have similarities, but they have differences. Stunt coordinator works for production. Safety is my number one mandate. But if I think you're capable of something and I think it's safe and I can keep you safe, I might nudge you a little bit. I might be like, it's only a 5 story building. I'll catch you. Um, but for intimacy, I'm there to protect you in every way whatsoever. And I say to production that once an talent has established their boundaries, they never have to reestablish them. They never have to say that again. I'm like, I don't want any shots of my feet for whatever reason. You never
Uh,
ask that again. It's done. That's over.
right.
We never come back to it. And that's one of the big differences I see between the two positions is I'm really an intimacy coordinator. I'm third party and I work for talent. And I'm very, very comfortable combating production to make sure that, the client, the talent's boundaries are protected.
I think, especially with intimacy coordination, is very interesting because it seems like there's a non-physical aspect to the job, whereas stunt coordinator, I feel like it's mostly physical.
I mean, they both are risk assessment more than anything else and communication.
Hmm.
But for stunt coordinating, it's physical in the sense where I'll show you. I'll physically show you sometimes what it might look like and how to do it. And intimacy coordination, we don't physically show anybody. If anything, sometimes I use my hands as hand puppets. We have things to demonstrate, but no, it's not physical. It's more risk assessment. And then if we're lucky, we get to get into the artistry of like breath work and tracing the lines of somebody's face and all the little kind of details that help an actor project, you know, whatever the intimacy of the moment is. But there's a
Like,
lot of different types of intimacy.
yeah, like telling a story through someone holding a sheet, right?
The gripping of the sheet, which we all
Yeah.
know this because there's enough in Getty Images where every vertical does it for sure. But then you can look at the same thing and when it's done masterfully. And I always go back to this one movie. I think it's called The Road to Wellness, or The Road to Wellville. This
Willville.
is Matthew Broderick and Anthony Hopkins and Bridget Fonda. And there's a scene where she visits, because this takes place in, I believe, like right around the turn of the century, where female hysteria was basically anything that a woman felt wrong, they would send to a doctor, and the doctor would manipulate and help them reach climax. And this is one of the ways that they would deal with female hysteria. So there's a scene where she visits one of these doctors, one of these masseurs, who gets her off. And the entire thing, besides a few shots of the face and the doctor, is told through her hand on the sheet. And it's not just, a simple like climax. It's a story that kind of goes up and down and shows like tension and release and acquiesce and resistance,
Hmm.
all simply by holding the sheet.
Yeah,
And
that's
that's
when
the one that I say is done masterfully.
for sure, for sure. So, walk me through a day of yours as an intimacy or a stunt coordinator leading up to a fight scene or an intimacy scene.
Which one? Which one first?
Let's do fight scene first.
So tomorrow, I believe I have a staircase fall.
Ooh.
So there's a lot of conversation ahead of time where
Hmm.
immediately I want to read the scene. And then the next thing I'm going to do is talk with the director and find out exactly what they intend to have in frame, how they expect it to be cut. And that gives me an idea of what I need to do, the level of severity of the stunt. Then we talk with the stunt actor, the stunt performer, figure out their comfort levels and all that kind of negotiation. And then we look into how we're actually going to do the stunt and protection. So at the moment, there's the padding that I need to order. Of course, the stunt performer has all their own physical pads, but this being a staircase fall, I need layers of
Hmm.
stunt pads so that I can break up the shot. Obviously, for vertical, we're not going to send somebody down a full flight, which
Hmm.
is the first question. It's like, send me a picture of the staircase. Typically, a lot of times for a fight scene, I'm going to want to go there and actually visit it and take measurements. But for a flight of stairs, a photo will suffice because I know that we're not going to send the stunt performer all the way down the flight of stairs in a wide.
Hmm.
And then I immediately establish that with the director that we're breaking it up into multiple shots. I plan the 2 or 3 shots that I have and order the padding that I need. And that's prep before the day. When I get there, I'll have plenty of time with the stunt performer because she's not doing anything else but doubling for the lead actor. I don't think we'll be on the staircase for the majority of the day, so we can rehearse it a few times, make sure the pads can be placed where I want them, Apple boxes to support, whatever else I need to keep things in place, but mostly me around the pads because these kind of falls, it's most important to take the pads and wrap the stunt performer in them when they land. They don't just
Hmm.
land on it. You kind of catch them with the pads. And this really takes like that window of injury from this to like that.
Hmm.
And also has me to support everything so I know nothing's going to slide off. And we'll rehearse it a couple times on the day. We'll make sure everybody feels comfortable. I'll make sure the DP is very, very well aware as to where everything is and my idea as to where cameras should most likely be placed, get input from them. That's pretty much everything. And then, there's only just time to do it on the moment. But every
Hmm.
stunt is different. Everyone's unique because it's not just, a punch or a slap. There's the environment that's involved. There's the people that are involved. So there's all these little things to ask questions and Just always have a plan and have no surprises.
How much does it
Every
differ?
variable.
How much does it differ from an intimacy scene then?
Intimacy scene, there's a lot more prep work. So this is intimacy writers. This is conversations with production, being director, writers, in the case of Vertical's clients. Lots of conversations with the talent to make sure that everything is really clear. And these conversations are all one-on-one. There's never a producer and a director and talent right there in the room. And I've had this situation where they'll say, "Oh, we want you to do a bare backside scene." If you ask the actor like that, it's an automatic no. No. Like you have to let me ask them in a situation where I'm going to get the most honest yes or no answer.
Right.
Because you're always going to feel obligated in front of a producer, in front of a client to want to please them.
Yeah.
So that's where I can be the bad cop for the talent and immediately say no for them. Now, of course, we can have a conversation later if the talent really, really wants to do it. But usually I let them use me as a scapegoat so that they never have to be looked at as difficult. I want production looking at me as difficult and not the actor.
Wow. I never thought about it that way. It's like you're almost like the middle person of communication about these things.
A
Huh.
third party and a little bit of a shield.
Yeah.
This is why I usually put in little bits of secret codes between me and the talent if they want to stop something, but they don't want production knowing why. That way, because I'm an actor as well. We never want to be looked at as difficult. We never want to be looked at as problematic.
Hmm.
But we need to express what we need to be comfortable. So I try to give them as much of an outlet to do that where they don't feel like it's going to be looked at by production. These are secrets that I'm going to keep. Nobody's going to know why I'm stopping the scene if you give me one of these little secret passwords. Nobody's going to know it's because it was you. And I'm still going to be able to deal with the problem, and you're going to be able to go back to your scene comfortably, not thinking that cast and crew is aware of what just happened.
Wow. So is that why that last time we talked, you said a lot of the intimacy coordinator had a therapy background?
There are definitely a lot of coordinators who have some type of therapy background.
Hmm.
I think it's more important to have like a performer background than anything else, but a therapy background does help a little bit in a lot of different situations. But I think the number one is having been a performer and being in these situations and looking at it as how would I want to be protected in this situation. The therapy background allows you to create comfortable, safe spaces and to realize when there's power dynamics,
Hmm.
to recognize when there's a power dynamic that might influence an actor's decision.
I mean, you said that being a stunt coordinator and being an IC combo almost help you as a career because
All three
you,
help each other.
yeah, as an actor too, yeah, because you said that you know how to use the camera to tell lies as a stunt coordinator, but not necessarily as an intimacy coordinator a lot of the times. So, you also told me this. I don't know if we can share this. We'll bleep it out in post if we can't share this. You told me that you heard a story of a IC who had actors kiss off camera for the first time.
Yeah,
Yeah, and like, do
and
you?
this is true, and I think this is a SAG IC as well. This is somebody who has like accreditation, and one of their methods is they'll have actors like go in a room privately when they on day one and have their first kiss off camera. And I've had a bunch of actors tell me this.
That is
I know
just
this person does
wild.
this, and you don't have to bleep it out because I don't really care, and I'm not saying anybody's name, but I think that's a really fucking stupid practice.
Right.
And every actor I've talked to about it has either refused or felt really kind of uncomfortable about it, but did it anyways.
Well, do you think there's a common misconception of what an IC do?
I think it's not super established because there is no nonprofit state board certification. No,
Hmm.
no. The only certification that exists goes to the different schools where you might have studied. The two schools that SAG approves of are also owned by SAG and charge upwards of like $9,000. So until there's like a nonprofit, state board type of certification that creates some type of standards, it's the Wild West. And we're all working off the same foundation of how we did it in theater. But
Hmm.
ICs in theater, we existed for a different reason.
Yeah.
We existed because theater people were already sleeping with each other and they needed somebody to mediate the chaos that was already going on backstage.
Right.
When we moved into film, it was for different reasons. And the thing is, working on a big studio production versus a vertical, they're completely different and the training doesn't always apply. So I feel it's more about personality and observation and your willingness to stand up for talent than, what school you went and got your education.
And how does all of that, your process and your workflow, translates into the vertical world? Like, was there a specific instant where you realize maybe some of your usual way of working just does not work within the vertical frame of the vertical workflow?
Instantaneously. For verticals, the majority of what I'm doing is protecting talent from client.
Yeah.
Not director, not producer, but client who is the money, who is making the decisions behind the verticals. They have very specific agendas, and a lot of times they pull fast ones. And I find myself always putting myself in between them and talent and saying, no, we can't do this. This wasn't scripted. This wasn't in the original script. This goes beyond boundaries, and constantly reinforcing those. Whereas if I'm working on an indie film, which I've done 2 or 3 of those in the past month, everybody's on the same page. Like boundary conversations are really just protocol because the producer, the director, nobody's trying to make anybody do anything they didn't sign on for.
Hmm. I think that
So a lot of
happened a
times
lot.
I'm getting in. It happens. It's the main portion of my job for verticals
Yeah.
is trying to get ahead of that bullshit, which is why I insist on intimacy writers, looking at these things ahead of time. And I've learned all the different verbiage with production to get ahead of these things so that they don't happen on the day.
Hmm.
So it's prep work more than anything else. And I'll establish these things. Okay, this is the scene. That's why I have the 5 levels of intimacy. The entire reason that I developed that whole thing was because of verticals and because it locks them in to level 1 being a greeting kiss. Level 2 is the passionate display of intimacy, which we can define as making out. Maybe there's breath work, maybe there's simulation of open mouth, but it doesn't lead anywhere. Level 3 is the same thing, that passionate display of intimacy, that making out, but it has the implication that when the scene cuts, that when we rack focus, that they did have sex, that there was some type of intimacy that took place in between the frames.
Hmm.
Level 4 is simulation. This is when we're simulating a sex act on camera. We can all decide what that is. Doesn't matter if it's in frame, but if the actors are simulating that act. Level 5 is simulation of a climax, because
Hmm.
this is a big ask for an actor to go from level 4 to level 5. It's like, okay, now come on camera. It's a big fucking ask.
Yeah.
This is why I have these, because then we establish each scene as level 1, level 2, level 3, and they can't make jumps in the scene, or at least they're much less likely to ask for things. I developed that for verticals
Hmm.
very specifically, just because it crosses any language barriers and it's very clearly defined. And we have everything else on the non-consensual side, which is its own category. But I find it really locks them into the scene. Because what they'll often try to do is like, okay, now pretend like, insertion just happened. And having those levels and having it in the call sheet and on the scene, level 4 intimacy, level 3 intimacy, gives me weapons, you know, to reinforce those boundaries.
Right.
And it also keeps the actors comfortable because they know what they're getting into. We know what this scene entails. We know what those things kind of fall under. It's just really communication more than anything else.
Yeah, incredible. I mean, I feel like having the privilege to watch you work on set has taught me, I feel like, a lot about directing and working with cameras and working with actors. I was also wondering for yourself, being an actor, IC, and stunt coordinator, what has being an IC and a stunt coordinator taught you about being an actor, and vice versa? How has being an actor taught you about being an IC and stunt coordinator?
I think they've all improved each other. So stunts is a lot of telling lies.
Mm-hmm.
It's all that matters is what's in the frame. What's outside the frame, we can tell any lie we want. And we do a lot of camera tricks, a lot of forced perspective, a lot of, all the old things that come from the 70s. That has helped me as an intimacy coordinator because I do scenes where I remove the actor and I use body doubles that aren't even really human, where I'll take 2 C-stands, a couple of towels, and put a pair of pants on that for the scene where she's riding her hands up the pants and unzipping his crotch.
Yeah.
There's no actor inside there, but it sure does look like there's an actor inside there.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that is stunts applying to intimacy. Intimacy has made me a much, much better actor because it has allowed me to observe actors in a much different way. When I'm on the monitor and I'm really focusing on breath work, eye lines, all these subtle emotions, and then I'm doing scenes a month later with a new actor, I'm realizing that I'm using things, using skill sets that are completely derived from intimacy. Now, being an actor for a stunt coordinator, there are a lot of stunt coordinators who never work with actors. They only work with stunt players.
Mhm.
And it's very apparent. And it's like, what do you mean you can't do a backflip off this? What, you want a fucking V-pad? Being an actor, working primarily for verticals with actors, I know how to look after them. I know they're not stunt players. I know some of them are not coordinated. And these are different schools of thought. You know, some of the greatest actors in history could not hit their mark to save their life, but they're fucking amazing actors, but
Mhm.
they're just not spatially oriented. So I've learned to be really good at helping somebody who may not be super coordinated and bring them slowly to what we need to sell them as somebody coordinated for that one moment on camera.
Right.
Being an actor has definitely supported that.
Mm.
That makes me, I think, unique as a stunt coordinator, where I think I'm better with first team than most stunt coordinators.
Mm.
Is probably my specialization is working with actors.
Any war stories then? This is a reoccurring segment where we ask our guests some of the horrifically memorable moments they've experienced working on set.
I mean, I really try to forget them if I don't have to go to court over it.
Oh
Um,
God.
well, that's the thing with my position is there's liability. As a stunt coordinator and intimacy, you have liability. You can be
Yeah.
sued. Um, and I never have been, thank God. And as far as intimacy war stories, I can't really share them, because the few times that unplanned things have happened, things that we could never account for, but that we just have to basically try to repair. We can't share those. They're always in confidence.
Hmm.
But recently, I wonder if this pad is around here for me to show it to you. I have this really cool stunt pad. Ah, there you are. One of my most versatile stunt tools.
Hmm.
And it's just a little piece of foam. We had an actor who had to smash his head into the table two, three, four times. It's an argument between him and his girlfriend, and he just throws a tantrum,
Uh-huh.
and part of his tantrum is smashing his head into the table. This isn't a vertical. This is a really good indie project. So this actor is very method, very in it, and we're moving kind of fast. And I have the table padded up because this thing's really great for that.
Hmm.
I've given him his marks as to where he can hit. We've done a little bit of rehearsal. He knows it has to be the crown of his head. And I'll always tell actors what your biggest risk is. Like the biggest thing that I see going wrong with it is what I'm going to remind you 16 times of. Like, okay, what's your biggest concern? What are you protecting the most? And most of the time it's the back of your head. Because whatever we're doing, I see some risk to the back of your head. And this, it was the bridge of his nose. Because I could see him missing the pad, going a little too far, or
Uh-huh.
hitting it just too hard, and the bridge of his nose for the corner of the table.
Oh.
We do the first take, and boom, smash, smash, smash. And I have all these books in front of the little bit of the pad so that you can't see the pad. So you can see his head smashing the table.
Yeah.
And there's a couple books here. But on that first take, he does it so hard the books fly off the table. And you can see the pad, super obvious.
Uh-huh.
Uh, and we do lightning reset. And these actors too, they're in the room for like 5 minutes before the scene doing preparations, screaming at each other just as like prep work. So I don't want to take them out of it. I want to get in and out as quick as I can and not have to tell him too much that's going to take him out of his character work. Because I
Mhm.
know as an actor, like you have all these people poking and prodding you. You have sound coming and poking. You have makeup coming and poking. All these things that take you out of what's a place that's so hard to get to sometimes.
Right.
So I reset the pad real quick. We reset the books. We do the next take. Bang, bang, bang. It's like cut. It was great. I look at it. I'm looking at the monitor. This is fucking great. It's like we're gonna go again. Oh shit, you're bleeding right there. And it's the most perfect line too. Thankfully, no stitches,
Uh-huh.
minor laceration, kind of thing that would heal in a week,
Oh
you know?
God.
But immediately he turns to me and he's like, "Did I break it?" And I'm like, "Dude, you would know. Like we all would have heard it if you broke your nose. You can hear that from like 15 feet away." But it was like a boxer's cut, and thankfully it worked for the script. We just had
Hmm.
one shot that we needed to do that was before he hit his head.
Okay.
And then it's an established wound. So makeup was really fucking happy about it because it was a gash that looked better
Uh-huh.
than you could ever do. So her makeup
Yeah.
friends will look at it and be like, wow, you did really good work on that. But it's still like the
Wow.
perfect boxer's gash. So we
Wow.
put medical tape on it, and went over it. And you could kind of see it in that one shot that we did. My guess is they'll probably bring him back for reshoots just to pick up that other shot. But for the rest of the 2 day shoot, it was established, an
Hmm.
established wound and perfect. And that's only one of a dozen times that there's been like a minor injury, but we caught something on camera because of it.
Hmm.
And I did like a 15 beat sequence once through 2 rooms, and the actor gets slammed into the wall. And as he comes off the wall, we see a pizza size hole in the wall that they just put in there. He
Uh-huh.
fucked up his elbow pretty good, but we caught the whole thing on camera and it looked amazing. It looked real because it was real. And
I
it
would
was the
imagine.
hero who gets smashed into the wall, and he kept
Yeah.
finishing the scene, so the take was good. Of course, that movie will never come out because the actor who's in it is now like on Chicago Fire or something.
Mm.
And I think they just pushed this movie down because it was so low budget. They don't want it affecting his career,
Mm. I
which
would
is
imagine.
disappointing because
I
we
would
did some
imagine
cool
you would
stunts.
like encounter a lot of these happy accidents doing stunts. I would imagine.
I mean, we always say you never get hurt, but if
Yeah.
you do get hurt, make sure it's in frame.
Make sure it's good.
Make sure we see it and we're rolling.
Hmm. Where
Like
then it would have been for nothing.
then it is absolutely and totally for nothing.
Yeah.
But no, there's really never been any serious injuries on any of my watches. Like
Hmm.
that laceration across the nose is probably one of the most serious things that's ever happened. And I learned from it. I learned how to prevent it. And next time I'm going to pull actors out of wherever they are to make sure they're safe in between the takes because I should have spent a little bit longer because now I realized how hard he was hitting that fucking table. I should have reinforced that whole thing about the nose. I should have pushed him back maybe about 2 centimeters, and I probably should have double wrapped the corner of the table. But
Mm.
that's the thing, is like is mistakes and fuck ups are always going to happen. You just have to learn from them.
100%. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, going back to last few questions about the vertical world, I am curious because you seem to be super, super experienced in this world. Talking about actors too, I think one of the more difficult thing for me to get over working on verticals is how the actors are almost treated like robots a lot of the times. As someone who's constantly in front of the monitor, some of these moments are very hard to watch. And you once said that it's good practice for actors to be in front of the camera, to be comfortable in front of the camera. But do you think that there is a line to be drawn anywhere for the performers to choose what they want to do, what they set out to do, over working their asses off on these verticals?
I think there's a happy medium because I see a lot of actors bringing things to the table that were not on paper. And
Mm-hmm.
that's, the complicated part. Like, sure, lots of time in front of the camera, line memorization, just being comfortable with everybody looking at you only comes through repetition.
Yeah.
But it's only robotic if they're not bringing anything to the frame that's not on paper. Like, that's the actor's job, is to bring something that's not on that page to the fucking camera.
Yeah.
And hopefully, you get yelled at it for it once or twice. You get told to stop doing it once or twice, and you ignore it and you do it anyways. Because I think as an actor, you take the character, it's been entrusted to you, and good, bad, ugly, you should make decisions. I think it's when they're not allowed to make any decisions in verticals where that's soul crushing. And I do see that with some clients as well, where they micromanage the emotional expressions.
Yeah.
And
Isn't
it's
that
you need to let an actor do their job.
isn't that most of the verticals? I feel like that's just I guess I have limited experience compared to you.
50-50. Drama Box doesn't pull that shit.
Mhm.
They definitely let people explore their range. What was another one? I've been working with Good Short a lot.
Mhm.
But you never know because they change clients. Like I used to love working with Real Short, and then I worked with one client from New York, and I'll never fucking work with Real Short again.
Mhm.
Like they're hardcore blacklisted for me. And
The
that's
one that
all
we
I
were
say.
on, I blacklisted the shit out of them. Do you remember?
Oh, were you on the same? Was that the same one? The last one that I worked, where we had the car scene that we had to redo on the last night?
No, not that one.
Okay.
I'll probably bleep this out, but we worked for
Oh yeah. I
that.
didn't mind them at all. You know what I liked about them is they made sure we had really good food on set because they were on set to eat it every day. Yeah, if you have three clients on set and they're all like bougie rich
Oh
dudes,
God,
they made sure that our catering was fucking fire.
silver lining,
Uh,
man.
well, I didn't mind because they let me do my thing as far as stunts go.
Yeah.
Uh, Intimacy, they did try to pull some shit.
Hmm.
There was that stuff on the first night where the actor had no idea,
Oh yeah.
what they wanted him to do.
Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
It's all the time for fucking intimacy. It's like, hey, has anybody discussed this with you? No. This is why I get the actor's information really soon, as
Right.
soon as I can. And I won't accept the job if you're like a week out, you won't give me their contact information because then I know you're trying to just pull some day of shit. But they let me do some super fun stuff for stunts. There was that whole sequence where the people were all fighting outside doing the training exercise.
Yeah, I remember
You remember
that.
that?
I remember that. Yeah.
Dude, I had like 30 minutes to put that shit together with six people with no coordination.
Yep.
Like none of them were stunt performers. I'm pretty sure none of them had ever thrown a punch in their life.
Yep.
Like these were homeschool kids at best. Nah, I don't mean that. They're all fucking sweet, and I've actually worked with a bunch of them since then. And they crushed it, and they loved it. But
Yeah.
we had 30 to 45 minutes maybe with six kids to create literally like a 15-second sequence where it was werewolves sparring.
Hmm.
I
Yeah, I
loved
remember
that.
that.
You'll never get that kind of opportunity in the studio world. They would have given me a week and a half to put that together, and I would
Yeah.
have had a casting pool of like 60 people to choose from who all do backflips and flat spins. So fun.
Yeah, Vertigo is like a high budget student film. It has the energy of a student film set.
hmm
Yeah,
I'm doing a
and
lot of stuff now for like Josh Gates and Discovery Plus, which is kind of like right in the middle of that,
mhm.
where I'll have one day of rehearsal time, but not SAG stunt actors.
Reminds you of why you love it. I would assume.
It's more challenging.
I feel like correct me if I'm wrong. I feel like I got the impression that you're the one of very few people that I know that who seem to be very on board and very supportive of the vertical world. You also said that you've made good verticals and you've seen good verticals, but they don't get as much views at all, and they're not as nearly as successful as the you know usual verticals. So I was just wondering, what is it about the current trope of verticals that make it so insatiable for people and people just keep watching it?
I think it's always our audience base, and our audience base as it changes, as it develops, so will too the content that we're allowed to make and sell to them. Our audience base has always been 35 to 55 Midwestern housewives, or at least the
Hmm.
audience base in the US. And they have a very specific, Downtown Abbey meets Cinderella meets 50 Shades of Grey kind of thing they want to watch. And I understand because I'm in that age group of wanting to watch the same fucking shit over and over again. These movie posters that I have, like this one or Aliens over there, there's one over there. I've seen these movies 100 times, and I can put them on, and I will just for comfort. And the same types of 80s movies. But now we're starting to get in the US a younger demographic of like 13 to 18,
Hmm.
which is terrifying to think
Yeah.
that they're watching these movies. But it does mean that we're going to start being able to expand the content into things like more comedy and young adults. Um, And eventually these kids will grow up and they'll be 22, 23, and then we can start making like good sci-fi. Who knows? Maybe things that are actually thought-provoking. But the things that are holding verticals back have been the same thing that have always held verticals back since day one. The biggest problem we always have on set is always the same. It's the fucking client.
Hmm.
It's the people who are signing the checks,
Yeah.
who God love them sometimes, but they have no idea how the cake is made. Most of them have no background in film. They're just using people who went to film school here in the US, whether it's Chapman or Knife or whatever, as proxies and trying to direct the film through them.
Yeah.
This is why I feel most bad for the director, and it's why I will never really pursue the director's chair on a vertical because I would get fired so quickly.
Yeah.
Um,
What do you is that what you think the future of vertical is, where people would actually take this somewhere that's worthwhile?
well, we need clients that actually have desire to do so. We need clients that have a desire to do something different, and we need clients who have a desire to let directors do their job.
Is
And
it
I've
based
been
on
on those steps too.
yeah? Is it based on the clients, or do you think it's based on the audience?
I mean, who's to say that's a money decision and the clients are money people? But they're answering to an algorithm, pure and simple. They're looking at metrics,
Yeah.
what sells, which is why you'll see so common right now in verticals is the same fucking scene, slightly rewritten 10 times in the same vertical.
Yep.
Oh no, all the same beats, the same fucking things are happening, except this time she's getting splashed with water, but no, this time she's getting hit with a cake. But it's literally the exact same beats. And they just hope that one of those goes viral, on social media and draws people back to the app and gets them to do a little purchasing.
Mm.
So as long as we're still insistent on selling that kind of product, um, it's going to be hard to ever stretch this into something that could potentially be an art form. The sales model will have to change a little bit.
Right. We always say that they want everyone to treat it as a product.
Well, everything's always a product. I don't know, but usually there's some type of artistic desire behind it.
Right.
We can't have art without product. We
Mm.
wouldn't have artists if we didn't have advertising because there'd be no way for an artist to practice their craft. There'd be no way for them to fund their fucking craft. The Shape of Water, there's a character I think played by Richard Jenkins, and he is the artist character, the neighbor who lives across the way,
Yeah.
and he hand draws advertising art. And of course, he's an amazing artist outside of that, but this is how he funds his life. This is how he's able to pay his rent, so that he can do the art that he wants to do. And as those things disappear, especially AI has pretty much eradicated a guy like that's job.
Yeah.
We're not going to see even graphic designers doing that shit anymore. Uh, it depends.
Yeah. Last question before moving to the lightning round. What is your end goal? Like, what's motivating you right now? What's keeping you going?
It's a really good question. I'll let you know if I ever figure it out.
Hmm.
I don't know. I've never really had end goals. I've always been a float more, steer less kind of person that as long as you wake up every day with a willingness to work hard and have a good intention in your heart, that things come together. So I try not to have too much of a plan, but I try to move forward in small increments.
Ready for the lightning round?
Yeah.
Biggest pet peeve on set.
Weapons.
Weapons. Walk me through your best and most memorable cocktail class.
Ooh. I mean, my most best and most memorable are never going to be the same because if it was my best one, I guarantee you I drank a lot and I don't remember anything from it. But I used to throw really good ones. They were always consumer based. Like I used to do cocktail classes, sure, for bartenders, but that was always functional. Like, here's the recipe. We'll talk about some talk points. But when I did things for consumers, for guests, it was more fun. I would teach a daiquiri, an old fashioned, and a Manhattan,
Hmm.
and why those three cocktails are the three that you should learn because it picks up a whole handful of skill sets a whole ability to open up your fridge and see what you can apply into the cocktail, making things at home, teaches you how to shake, how to stir. And I had that down to a science. I could still do that class from memory. And I don't think I've done that class in 6 years.
If you were to describe yourself with a drink, what would it be and why?
Shot of Jameson.
Your favorite character you've ever played?
I played a version of Andy Warhol in a film called Flesh and Blood. Tiffany was the amazing director of this. Where is it? Right here. Yeah, Flesh and Spirit is what it's called.
Flesh and
With the
Spirit.
amazing Tiffany Lupin.
What games have you been playing recently?
The new Indiana Jones for the second time now. And then I'm playing Jedi Outcast, if you know that. Jedi Knight 2, I believe it's called, which is an older first person slash third person Star Wars game.
Hmm.
And what else right now? Red Dead. I'm trying to get back into a new character for Red Dead Redemption 2, now that I've got a bigger TV.
Biggest fear?
Heights.
Heights.
I have a physical reaction to heights. Like I still do it and I do high stuff all the time, but I can stand at the edge of things or I can watch somebody falling on screen and I can feel it in my lower intestine slash testicles. I don't know if anybody else gets that kind of physical reaction to like falling, and that's something that I can't willpower my way out of, but I still do it. I do height involved stuff all the time,
Hmm.
and it just sucks.
Are tennis balls green or yellow?
I'm gonna go with yellow.
Team Yellow. Another one to Team Yellow. I've been asking this to every guest. I've been
That's
touting
a
it.
good question. It's a good question. It's definitely a fine line.
Yeah, it's a fine line. And yeah, that's it. Any last words? That's the episode. Any last words? Any recommendation? Anything you've seen? Anything you've heard? Anything you've done recently that you want to recommend to all the listeners out there?
Skip the last episode of Alien Earth.
We talked about this off camera, but yeah.
Oh my God, it's fucking so disappointing in humanity. It's when they end a series like that. I just want to it's the kind of shit that makes me want to leave the film business, to be honest. It's like if we're just going to allow this, if we're going to let people get away with making something so good and ending it so fucking horribly, I'm out. I'm going to go pump gas. I'm not going to go make cocktails anymore, but I'm not going to do this.
Yeah. Any plug? Where can they find you? If they want, if you
No,
want
I'm at
people to
work
find
and
you.
home. If you want to find me, just ride the LA Metro a whole lot, and you're going to see me eventually. Because at least 4 to 5 hours a day, I am riding LA Metro to get back and forth to set. My average, like the lowest time is 3 hours per day. The max is probably 6 or 7 hours if I have to go to like fucking Orange County.
Dude, I don't know how you do it, man. Oh.
So yeah, if I'm gonna plug any bus, that's the 720 Wilshire bus. Like literally, you have a 1 in 10 chance of spotting me on that bus.
All right, you go find your wild Aaron out there. And thank you guys for listening. And yeah, I'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Thank you for having me. Take
Bye.
care.